I kicked my parents out after they humiliated my 10-year-old, but I never expected my sister's revenge would go this far. My dad, James, is one of those guys who thinks he's the king of the world, always walking around like everyone should bow down to him. My mom, Linda, is just as bad but in a quieter way. She's got this passive-aggressive thing down to an art form. Growing up, they weren't exactly the warm, supportive type. They were more judgmental and critical, especially when it came to me. So, yeah, having them over for dinner wasn't exactly something I looked forward to, but I figured it'd be fine, right? I mean, how bad could it get? Well, turns out it could get pretty damn bad. My daughter Lily is 10, and she's been taking keyboard lessons for about 2 weeks. She's really excited about it, and honestly, she's pretty good for a kid who's just starting. Anyway, after dinner she asked if she could play a song she'd been practicing, just to show off a little bit like any proud kid would. She had that look in her eyes, like she was ready to impress us all, so she sits down at the keyboard, and we're all watching. I could tell she was a little nervous, but she started playing. Was it perfect? No. There were a few missed notes here and there, and she paused a couple of times, but overall, it was pretty damn good for someone who'd only had 2 lessons. I was proud. You could see how much effort she was putting in, and as her dad, that's what mattered to me. When she finished, she looked up smiling, waiting for some kind of approval, and of course I started clapping. I mean, what else would you do? That's your kid, right? You're supposed to encourage them. But then I hear it, this loud, obnoxious laugh. At first I thought maybe someone outside was laughing or something, but no, it was my dad. And then my mom joined in. They were laughing. Not just a little chuckle or anything like that. I'm talking full-on belly laughing, like they'd just watched the funniest thing in the world. Lily's smile disappeared so fast, I thought my heart might actually break. She looked down at the floor, and I could see her shrinking right in front of me. It was like someone had just popped her little bubble of excitement and joy. My mom, Linda, looked over at me, still laughing, and goes, "Was that her first time playing?" And then my dad, being the a-hole he is, goes, "A dog could have done better than that." A damn dog. Are you kidding me? Who says that to a 10-year-old? Lily, bless her heart, was trying so hard to hold it together. She quietly said, "No, I've had 2 lessons. It's hard using both hands," but you could tell she was crushed, and of course, that just made them laugh harder. I could feel the anger rising in me. I'm not the kind of guy who flips out easily, but this was too much. I was standing there, watching my parents laugh at my kid, and I just snapped. I got up from my chair, walked over to the table and grabbed their cups. I didn't even care about being polite at this point. I just said, "Leave, now." My mom, still trying to act all innocent, goes, "Oh, we haven't finished our drinks yet. We want to hear another song." I wasn't having any of it. I said, "No. Get your stuff and get the hell out of my house." My dad started doing this huffing thing he always does when someone challenges him, like he's about to explode because how dare anyone talk back to him, right? My mom, still trying to act like nothing happened, says, "You don't have to be like this. We're just preparing her for the real world. You can't protect her forever, you know." That was it for me. I don't know where it came from, but I just blurted it out. "This isn't preparing her for the real world. You're just nasty little bullies picking on a kid, and you know what? This right here is why I was so messed up as a kid. Now get out." They looked at me like they couldn't believe what I just said, but I wasn't backing down. Not this time. I wasn't going to let them hurt my daughter the way they hurt me all those years growing up. They finally got their stuff together and left, but not without my dad throwing a few more huffs my way, like he was the victim in all of this. Typical. After they left, I sat down with Lily. She looked so defeated, like she'd just gone through a war. I could see the tears welling up in her eyes, and I just felt this overwhelming guilt, like I hadn't protected her enough. I told her, "Hey, you did amazing. I'm so proud of you. Don't listen to them. They're just mean because they don't know how to be nice. That's all it is." She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. So I asked her, "Can you play it for me again? I'd love to hear it." And you know what? She did. She played it again, and yeah, there were still some missed notes, but I clapped even louder this time because screw what my parents thought. My daughter was doing her best, and that's all that mattered. Later that night, when Lily was asleep, I sat there thinking about everything that had happened. This wasn't the first time my parents had pulled this kind of crap. They'd been like this my whole life, always criticizing, always making me feel like I wasn't good enough. But now seeing them do the same thing to Lily, it was different. It hit harder. I wasn't going to let them do to her what they did to me, so after kicking my parents out of my house, I was still fuming. You know that feeling when you're so mad that, even after the whole thing is over, your mind keeps replaying everything, and it just makes you madder? That's exactly where I was. Every time I thought about what my dad said or the way they laughed at Lily, my blood just boiled all over again. But I wasn't about to back down. I knew I had done the right thing standing up for my daughter like that. I wasn't going to let them get away with making her feel like crap. Still, the anger was eating at me, and I knew I had to do something about it. On Sunday morning, I sent them a text, basically telling them we needed a break until they could learn how to act like decent people. Honestly, I didn't expect much of a response, but my dad replied pretty quick. He said something like, "It's your choice, but I didn't raise you to be this precious." Precious? The guy thought standing up for my own kid was being precious? I didn't even know how to react to that, so I just left it. No point in wasting more energy on them. What I wasn't expecting, though, was my sister, Amanda, to get involved. Now let me explain something about Amanda. She's the golden child. Like, the golden child. The one who can do no wrong in my parents' eyes. She's always been the one they coddled, praised, and bent over backward for, while I was more or less treated like an afterthought growing up. I was used to her getting all the attention, all the praise, all the everything. She was their little angel, and I was just, well, I was there. So of course, Amanda jumps right into the middle of this whole thing. Monday morning, I get a call from her. I didn't even bother picking up because I already knew what it was going to be about. Sure enough, she leaves me this long-ass voicemail basically repeating everything my parents must have told her. She said stuff like, "You were so rude to Mom and Dad. They were just trying to help Lily, and you overreacted. You can't treat them like that, they're our parents." A classic Amanda, always defending them no matter how shitty they were being. I let the voicemail sit for a bit, not even caring enough to respond right away. But by the afternoon, she sent me a text saying, "You're a real piece of work. I can't believe you're acting like this over something so small. Mom and Dad were just joking, and you've gone and thrown a tantrum like a child." That's when I couldn't hold back anymore. I texted her back, "A small thing? They made my daughter cry, Amanda. This isn't some little joke. They were cruel, and I'm not going to stand by and let them treat her like that. If you're okay with it, that's your business. But don't come at me for protecting my own kid." I thought that would be the end of it. But nah, Amanda wasn't done. She called me again, and this time, I picked up. The moment I answered, she was off. "You've gone too far this time. You can't just cut them off because of one little mistake. You're blowing this way out of proportion. They didn't mean to hurt Lily, they were just teasing. That's what families do." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Teasing? "Amanda," I said, "they humiliated her. They laughed at her while she was trying to show them something she was proud of. That's not teasing, that's being a bully." Amanda was having none of it. "Oh, so now they're bullies? Give me a break. You're acting like they beat her up or something. You've always been too sensitive, you know that? This is why you've always had issues with them." I couldn't even argue with her anymore. It was like talking to a brick wall. Amanda had spent so much of her life being their perfect little girl that she couldn't even see how messed up they were. It was pointless to try and explain it to her, so I just said, "You know what, Amanda? Go screw yourself," and hung up the phone. Now, maybe that wasn't the most mature way to handle it, but I was done. I wasn't going to sit there and let her make me feel like the bad guy for standing up for my kid. I knew she'd run straight back to my parents and tell them everything, but honestly, I didn't care. For the next couple of days, I was getting random texts and calls from other family members. Apparently, Amanda had been busy. She'd told everyone who would listen her version of events. And now I had cousins, aunts, and even a couple of old family friends messaging me, asking what happened. A few of them were polite about it, just curious. But most of them? Oh, they were mad. I got messages like, "You shouldn't have talked to your parents like that," and "Family is family. You don't just kick them out." But there was one that really pissed me off. It was from my cousin, Sarah, who I hadn't spoken to in months. She texted me, "I heard what you did. How could you treat your parents like that after everything they've done for you? This is how you repay them." Disgusting. Disgusting? I couldn't believe it. What the hell had my parents told everyone? At this point, I felt like I was in the middle of some messed up family drama where I was the villain, and all I did was protect my kid from their shitty behavior. I thought about responding to all of them, defending myself, explaining what really happened. But then I realized, what's the point? These people weren't there. They didn't see what happened. All they had was my parents' twisted version of the story, and nothing I said was going to change their minds. So I did the only thing that made sense. I blocked every single one of them. I didn't need that kind of negativity in my life, and I definitely didn't need it messing with Lily. She was already dealing with enough after what happened. The thing is, this whole situation made me realize just how toxic my family really is. I always knew my parents were tough to deal with, but seeing how everyone rushed to their defense without even asking for my side of the story, it showed me that they were never going to change. They were always going to be on my parents' side, no matter how messed up they were. At the end of the day, I didn't need them. I had Lily, and I was going to do everything I could to protect her from the same crap I had to deal with growing up. If that meant cutting off my parents, Amanda, and the rest of them, so be it. Because at the end of the day, Lily is what matters, and I'm not letting anyone hurt her the way they hurt me. Update 1. If I thought things were going to cool down after I told Amanda to screw off, I was dead wrong. Honestly, I should have known better. Amanda's always been the type to hold a grudge and stir shit up when she doesn't get her way. But even I didn't expect her to take it this far. It all started on Tuesday, a few days after I kicked my parents out and blocked half the family. I had taken Lily to school in the morning, like usual, trying to get back into the normal routine after all the drama. I was feeling pretty good about things. Sure, I was still pissed about how my parents treated her, but I felt like I was finally in control, like for once, I was standing up for my kid and myself without letting them walk all over me. But then I got a text from my ex, Emma. We've been divorced for a few years now, and while things haven't always been smooth between us, we're usually civil when it comes to co-parenting Lily. So when I saw her name pop up on my phone, I figured it was just something about Lily's school or weekend plans. Nope. The text read, "Why is Amanda calling me about you and Lily? She's saying some pretty crazy stuff. Can we talk?" I sat there, staring at my phone, wondering what the hell Amanda was up to now. Why the hell was she dragging my ex-wife into this? So I called Emma. She picked up after a couple of rings, and the first thing she said was, "What's going on with your sister? She's been blowing up my phone all morning." I sighed, already dreading where this was going. "What did she say?" Emma let out a huff and said, "She's saying you've lost it, that you're alienating Lily from your family, and that she's worried about Lily's well-being. She even hinted that maybe Lily would be better off with me full-time." I felt my stomach drop. Was Amanda seriously trying to mess with custody now? What the hell? I practically shouted into the phone. She's trying to make it sound like I'm a bad dad over one argument with our parents? Emma sounded a little hesitant but said, "Look, I don't know what's going on, but Amanda's making it sound like you're losing control. She said you kicked your parents out for no reason and that Lily's upset and doesn't want to see you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It's like Amanda had gone off the deep end. "That's complete bullshit," I said. "Lily's fine. She was upset because of what our parents did, not because of me. Amanda wasn't even there. She has no idea what happened." Emma paused for a second, and I could tell she wasn't sure who to believe. "I don't know, man. I just want to make sure Lily's okay. Maybe it's time we talk to her about all this together." Now, I could tell Emma wasn't trying to cause more problems, but the fact that Amanda had gotten her involved was pushing me to my limit. I knew if I didn't handle this right, things could spiral out of control fast. I didn't want to have to go back to court or deal with any custody nonsense because of Amanda's meddling. "Yeah, of course we can talk to Lily," I said, trying to sound calm even though I was still fuming inside. "But Amanda's just trying to stir the pot. Lily's not upset with me. She's upset because our parents made fun of her. That's it." Emma seemed to relax a bit. "Okay, well, I'm going to talk to Amanda and tell her to back off. I don't want her dragging me into this mess." "Please do," I muttered, running a hand through my hair. "This is ridiculous." We hung up, and I sat there for a minute, trying to collect my thoughts. Amanda wasn't just messing with me now, she was trying to turn everyone against me. But going after custody? That was low, even for her. Later that day, after I picked Lily up from school, I sat her down to talk. I didn't want her getting blindsided by anything Amanda or anyone else might say. "Hey, sweetheart," I started, trying to keep my voice calm. "I wanted to talk to you about something. Aunt Amanda's been saying some things about me and you, and I just wanted to make sure you're okay." Lily looked up at me with a confused expression. "What do you mean?" "Well," I said, "she's been telling people that you're upset with me, and that you don't want to see me, but I know that's not true, right?" Lily's eyes widened. "Why would she say that?" "I'm not mad at you, Dad." I smiled a little, relieved to hear her say that. "I know, kiddo. I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes people say things that aren't true, and I didn't want you to get worried if you heard anything like that." Lily nodded, looking a little confused but mostly okay. "I don't get it. Why would Aunt Amanda lie? That was the question, wasn't it? Why was Amanda doing this? Was she trying to win points with my parents? Or was she just being petty because I told her to go screw herself?" "I don't know, sweetheart," I said, shaking my head. "But it's nothing for you to worry about. I'll take care of it." She seemed satisfied with that answer, so we left it at that. But inside, I was still boiling. Amanda had crossed a line, and now it was time to deal with her once and for all. The next morning I called Amanda. She didn't pick up, so I left her a message, keeping it short and to the point. "Amanda, stop dragging my ex-wife and everyone else into this. You weren't there, and you don't know what happened. This is between me, Mom, and Dad. Stay out of it." I didn't expect a reply, and honestly, I didn't care if she gave one. I'd said my piece. But just to be safe, I reached out to a lawyer friend of mine to make sure Amanda couldn't mess with custody or anything like that. Better safe than sorry, right? By the end of the week, things had started to settle down. I didn't hear anything more from Amanda or my parents. Emma told me that she had talked to Amanda and basically told her to stay out of our business, which was a relief. Still, the whole thing left a bad taste in my mouth. I knew Amanda wasn't done. She'd probably keep running her mouth to the rest of the family. But as long as she kept her claws out of my relationship with Lily, I could live with that. At the end of the day, all that mattered was that I was doing right by my daughter. If that meant cutting off toxic people, even family, then so be it. Because no matter how much they tried to twist things, I wasn't going to let them make Lily feel like she wasn't good enough. Not now, not ever. Update 2. So after dealing with Amanda trying to drag Emma into the whole mess, I thought things would finally start cooling down. I was wrong. I should have known that my parents wouldn't just let it go. Especially not my dad. He's never been the type to back down, even when he's wrong. Especially when he's wrong. But what came next was on a whole new level of messed up. It was Friday afternoon, and I'd just gotten off work. I was looking forward to a quiet weekend, maybe taking Lily to the park or the movies, something chill to get our minds off everything. Just as I'm about to sit down and relax for the first time in what felt like forever, my phone buzzes. It's an email from my mom. Now, I wasn't expecting anything good, but I opened it anyway, thinking it was going to be another guilt trip or some passive-aggressive nonsense about how I overreacted. But nope, it was way worse. The email started out with her usual stuff, talking about how I overreacted by kicking them out, how they were just joking, and how I've always been too sensitive. But then she goes into this whole new level of crazy by saying they want to meet with me, without Lily, to discuss things. Yeah, like that was going to happen. But it wasn't just the request that threw me off. It was how she said it. She started talking about how they were worried about Lily, how she might be too sensitive like me, and how maybe it's because I'm coddling her too much. Then my mom had the audacity to suggest that maybe they should be more involved in raising her because, according to her, I clearly wasn't doing a good enough job. I swear, my blood pressure shot up just reading that. I sat there staring at my phone, trying to process what the hell I just read. I knew my parents were manipulative, but this was next-level bullshit. They were basically saying I wasn't a good dad, and that they needed to step in. The same people who made my daughter cry less than a week ago were now claiming they needed to help me raise her. I fired off a quick reply, something along the lines of, "You've got to be kidding me. If you think for 1 second I'm letting you anywhere near my kid after what you did, you're out of your mind." I hit send and immediately blocked her email. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of another back and forth. But of course, that didn't stop them. The very next day, my dad shows up at my house, unannounced. No call, no text, just shows up. I saw him through the window, standing on the front porch, with that same grumpy look he always has when he doesn't get his way. I didn't even want to open the door, but I knew if I didn't, he'd probably just keep banging on it until the neighbors called the cops or something. So I opened the door, and before I can even say anything, he goes, "We need to talk." I stood there blocking the doorway. "No, we don't. You need to leave." But of course he wasn't about to just walk away. He steps closer, trying to push his way past me into the house, but I stood my ground. "I'm not leaving until we talk," he says. Now my dad's a big guy, and growing up, he always used his size to intimidate people. But I wasn't a scared little kid anymore. I wasn't going to let him push me around in my own house. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the cops." That got his attention. He stopped in his tracks, glaring at me like he couldn't believe I just said that. Then, like flipping a switch, he tried to play the victim card. "Is this really how you're going to treat your father after everything we've done for you? That line right there, that's what set me off. Everything they've done for me? What, like all the years of emotional abuse, the constant criticism, the way they made me feel like I was never good enough?" "Yeah, thanks for all that," I snapped. "Everything you've done for me? You mean like all the times you tore me down growing up, or how you treated me like crap because I didn't live up to your expectations? Or maybe how you humiliated my daughter last week?" "Yeah, Dad, real great job raising me." He looked stunned for a second, like he didn't know how to respond, but then he went right back to being the same old a-hole he's always been. "You're still living in the past, son. You've got to let it go." Let it go? I couldn't believe he was saying that, like all the stuff they'd done was no big deal, just water under the bridge. "You know what, Dad? I'm not the one who needs to let it go. You need to realize that you're the problem, you and Mom both, and until you do, you're not welcome here." He started to argue again, but I cut him off. "I mean it. You're not coming back here, and if you try to pull any more of this crap with Lily, I will take legal action. I'm done playing nice." He just stood there for a moment, staring at me like he couldn't believe what I was saying. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel like the little kid trying to please his parents. I felt in control. Finally, my dad turned around and walked back to his car. I stood there, watching him drive away, feeling this huge weight lift off my shoulders. For once, I hadn't backed down. I hadn't let him or my mom get to me. That night, I sat down with Lily and told her about the whole thing. I didn't give her all the details, just enough so she knew what was going on, and that she didn't need to worry about seeing them anymore. She looked up at me and said, "Are they going to be mad at you?" I smiled at her and said, "Probably, but I don't care. I've got you, and that's all that matters." Lily smiled back. And that was all the reassurance I needed, because yeah, my family might be a mess, but at least I knew I was doing right by my daughter, and that's all that really mattered. Update 3. By the time Saturday rolled around, I was honestly exhausted from all the drama. Between Amanda dragging Emma into the mess, my parents trying to play the victim, and my dad showing up at my door like a wannabe mafia boss, I was just done. All I wanted was a quiet weekend with Lily, just to recharge and get back to normal. But of course that wasn't in the cards. It was early afternoon, and Lily was in her room, doing whatever 10-year-olds do when they're alone with a tablet. I was in the kitchen, making lunch, when the doorbell rang. I froze for a second, because, after everything that had gone down the past week, I wasn't exactly excited to answer the door. I wasn't in the mood for another unannounced visit from my parents or, worse, Amanda. I walked to the door, half expecting to see one of them standing there, ready for round 2. But when I opened it, I was met with a total stranger. She was maybe in her early 50s, with this weird fake smile plastered on her face. I'd never seen her before in my life, but she was holding a clipboard, so my immediate thought was that she was a saleswoman or something. "Hi," she said in this overly sweet voice. "I'm from Child Protective Services. We received a report, and I'd like to talk to you about your daughter, Lily." I swear, my heart stopped. "CPS? Are you kidding me?" "What?" was all I managed to choke out. My brain was scrambling, trying to figure out what the hell was happening. She didn't flinch, just kept that same fake smile on her face. "We got an anonymous report expressing concerns about your daughter's welfare. so we need to follow up and make sure everything's all right." I stood there for a moment, stunned. It didn't take a genius to figure out who the anonymous tip came from. This was Amanda. She'd crossed a line, and now she was trying to mess with my kid's life in a whole new way. "Are you serious?" I finally said. "There's nothing wrong with Lily, she's fine." She nodded, like she'd heard that line a million times. "I understand this might be upsetting, but we're required to investigate every report we receive. Can I come in?" I knew I couldn't exactly refuse. I mean, it's CPS. If I said no, it would just look worse. So I stepped aside and let her in, my stomach doing flips the whole time. This was the last thing I needed. She walked into the living room and looked around, making little notes on her clipboard like she was some kind of detective. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep my cool, but inside, I was raging. How could Amanda do this? How far was she willing to go just because I stood up to her and my parents? "Is Lily home?" she asked, glancing up from her notes. I nodded. "Yeah, she's in her room. Would you mind if I spoke with her?" she asked, still in that same sickly sweet tone. I didn't like it, but I knew I didn't have much of a choice. "Sure, I'll get her." I walked down the hall to Lily's room, trying to figure out how the hell I was going to explain this to her. I didn't want to freak her out, but I also couldn't lie to her. She had a right to know what was going on. I knocked on her door and poked my head in. "Hey kiddo, there's someone here who wants to talk to you for a few minutes, okay?" Lily looked up from her tablet, confused. "Who?" I swallowed hard. "It's someone from CPS. They just need to ask you a couple of questions. Don't worry, everything's fine. Just be honest, okay?" Her eyes went wide, and I could tell she was a little scared, but she nodded and got up to follow me back to the living room. The CPS worker smiled at her and asked her to sit down. I stood off to the side watching, my heart pounding in my chest. This was my worst nightmare, having someone question whether or not I was a good dad. The worker asked her all these questions: how she liked living here, how often she saw her mom, if she ever felt scared or unsafe. Lily answered everything perfectly, and I could see she was getting a little annoyed by the end of it. Honestly, I couldn't blame her. It must have been so weird for her to have some stranger ask her these personal questions. After about 20 minutes, the CPS worker finally wrapped things up. She thanked Lily for her time and turned to me. "Everything seems fine here," she said, like I hadn't just been through the most stressful half-hour of my life. "I'll file my report, and you'll probably get a letter in the mail confirming that the case is closed." "Great," I muttered, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Thanks." She gave me that fake smile again and left without another word. I stood there for a second, trying to process what had just happened. Amanda had actually called CPS on me. She'd really gone that far. I turned to Lily, who was looking up at me, clearly confused. "Dad, what was that about? Did I do something wrong?" I crouched down to her level and put my hands on her shoulders. "No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. That was just someone being mean and trying to make trouble for us. But it's over now, okay? You don't need to worry about it." She nodded, but I could tell she was still a little shaken up, and honestly, so was I. I knew I had to do something. This wasn't just Amanda being a pain in the ass anymore. This was her actively trying to screw up my life. She'd crossed a line, and I wasn't going to sit back and let her get away with it. That night, after I put Lily to bed, I called my lawyer. I told him everything that had happened, from Amanda trying to mess with Emma to her calling CPS on me. He was pissed on my behalf and told me we had more than enough to file for a restraining order against Amanda. He also said we could send a cease and desist letter to my parents, basically telling them to back the hell off or else. I didn't want to take things that far, but I was done letting Amanda and my parents mess with my life. This was about protecting Lily, and if that meant cutting them off completely, then that's what I was going to do. The next morning, I had my lawyer draft up the papers. It was time to send a clear message. I wasn't playing their games anymore. They could throw all the tantrums they wanted, but they weren't going to hurt my daughter, and they weren't going to mess with my life. Not anymore.